Hello, hey, this is Dave Harrington. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take the time to, in support of a previous post about a week and a half ago in respect to the sighting concept that I've developed. I'm going to give you a detailed explanation and show you a couple of things that are important to grasp what I feel is the importance of the concept that I'm currently developing. Okay? What I'm going to do, weapons are unloaded and cleared. Alright, this is my BCM, Bravo Company Manufacturing AR pistol, and I actually have it set up pretty much like an SBR. Funny how that works. I have a fixed 4-power ACOG with an RMR piggybacked on top of it for short work. A little white light ND there. Apologize for that. Now dig this. If I do not need the magnification, I can simply change my head position and go to work with the RMR for close range or speed work. Okay. But if you notice, both of these sights are mounted in the vertical plane. Now, in respect to zeroing, the sight has to be zeroed in the vertical plane. That's how you get your windage and elevation adjustments. Okay. You also have to understand baseline trajectory in respect to ballistics, internal, external, and terminal. We're going to focus on the external ballistics of trajectory as it relates to understanding this sight mounting concept. With the sights mounted in the vertical plane, and for the sake of conversation, and to make the math easier to do in your head as I present the information, we're going to go with 100 yard zero. Okay? In respect to this specific ACOG and the ACOG on my current go-to rifle caliber carbine, I use BDC reticles, which in support of the BDC reticle, you need 100 yard zero. If I were to take this AR pistol and turn it on its left side, then based on my physical position, or for whatever reason I'm forced to turn the weapon on its side, now in respect to my point of aim, point of impact, trajectory is skewed. And here's how. With the weapon on its left side, if I were to aim center on a target at 100 yards, basically I would hit either left edge or be off the target to the target's left side. Okay? And that's because with the sight zeroed in the vertical plane, in respect to trajectory, the barrel is angled upwards in support of trajectory. Okay? Now, having it turned on its left side, that means I will hit to the left of the target at that specific distance, or if the distance is greater, the miss will be that much wider. Okay, now through training and experience, it's easy to grasp doing the math to hold right edge to hit center. Now this is in relationship to the weapon being on its left side with a 100 yard vertical zero. If I turn it on its left side, I would have to hold right edge to hit center. Okay, well, bottom line is, when you're fighting with guns, shooting is shooting, period, hands down. But when you're fighting with guns, you've got a lot more thought process going on in respect to what needs to be done, and you either intuitively do the math or observe your impacts and make the respective adjustments to get rounds on target. All right, now here is this is my current go-to rifle caliber carbine. I have set up respectively with an ACOG and an Aimpoint T2 set up on a 45-degree offset. Well, the concept is the same. If for any reason I don't need the magnification, I can roll the rifle and ensure, roughly 45 degrees, and use the Aimpoint for speed work or whatever that requirement is. All right. Now the thing about it is, what are your zeros? Do you have compatible zeros? I use a 100-yard zero with the ACOG because I dig on using BDC reticles. The Aimpoint I have set up on a point of aim, point of impact at 50, okay, because that supports the fast, close range type work. But that doesn't guarantee that, based on my physical position in relationship to the target and the physical position that's dictated by the cover or respective concealment that I'm using, will I be able to achieve maintaining the 45-degree offset sight, which should be zeroed in the vertical plane, actually in the vertical plane, so I don't have to do the math. All right. So having said all that, let's take a look at the concept gun. Okay. This is my Wilson Combat PCC, or pistol caliber carbine, 9mm. I have mounted in the vertical plane Trijicon MRO, and it happens to be a green dot. It's one of the newer green dots. And as I understand, having spoken with Dick LaShawn, the engineer, the head dude, so to speak, engineer at Trijicon, the parallax, the earlier parallax issues with the MRO has been corrected by changing the lens prescription. Now, all I have done is, on my previous post and the photos that I laid out, I didn't have the proper mount. I just got back from Texas last night, and while I was gone, those additional support requirements that I identified during my first effort, so to speak, I received those and they were waiting for me when I got here, and I set the gun up this morning. It was very meticulous, went through everything, cross-checked everything twice. Everything's Loctited, red Loctite. And by the way, red Loctite is the new blue Loctite. I don't use blue anymore. Primary reason being, with the amount of work that I do, my guns at times become extremely hot, and whether I use blue Loctite or not, it still shoots loose. So red is the new blue, and if there's anything in respect to mounting that I absolutely want to have the confidence in it not shooting loose, I'll use green Loctite. That is provided I can't apply heat to it to get it apart when I need to. All right, now, coming back full circle. The MRO is zeroed in the vertical plane. What I have done is I have taken a Trijicon SRO and mounted it on the 90-degree rail. Now I have the proper mount. It is much more compact and tight into the overall carbine. Not such a high profile snag hazard. Now dig this. Relative math in respect to the setup of the gun. With the stock extended and using the MRO in the traditional firing manner, stock in the shoulder pocket, there are no issues related to point of aim, point of impact. Now, in respect to my physical position or whatever cover and concealment I'm trying to negotiate or use to my advantage while fighting, I don't have a choice. But let's take a look at something. Instead of, or with the 90-degree mount, I can short stock the carbine if I have to, and I go right to the sight. It's right in my face, okay? The beauty of the 90-degree mount over the 45-degree offset mount is you have a true zero. Even with the stock collapsed, I can bring the gun up flat or on its left side, and if you would, I'm going to go ahead and insert an empty magazine into the mag well so you can see the overall profile of and the value. If I'm in the vertical plane, I have these obstructions, which is basically the lower, the magazine itself, pistol grip, blah, blah, blah. Now dig this. With a 90-degree sight, all I've got to do is turn the gun on its left side. Now it's much easier to negotiate a difficult shooting position, such as going around or under a vehicle, or over the top, over the hood or the trunk. It could be, you could be in the street, and the only cover or concealment that you have to take advantage of is the actual curb to the sidewalk. Even at a 45 degree, that's going to be difficult in the prone over turning the gun flat on its side to work that problem. Now, here is the value of the 90-degree mount. You have a true, with the rifle on its side, you have a true zero. The sight itself is zeroed in the vertical plane, which totally eliminates having to do the intuitive math of holding left or right respectively based on which side you have the rifle turned on. You just hold center and tuck the target in for the dirt nap. Now, here's the value. The shooting math is sound. I could explain it in a little more detail, but why? If you set your rifle up in this manner and shoot it, you should intuitively get it. Okay? It makes your carbine much more flexible to use and a broader scope of difficult shooting circumstances. Now, the downside, there is a downside, and the downside simply depends on your outlook in respect to how you view your weapons and equipment. I view my weapons and equipment as life support equipment. So therefore, cost is irrelevant. It costs what it costs. And even though you can use any type of sights, there's many choices out there, I choose to use Trijicon, okay, for this application. Now dig this. Remember, and this is absolutely true, 9.5 times out of 10, you get what you pay for. All right. So if you're not using quality sights along the lines of Trijicon or Aimpoint, everything else is, certainly behind the power curve. It may be less expensive, and you may be able to afford to set a carbine up in this configuration and take advantage of it, or not. It depends, what's your life worth? Now, something I'd like you to consider is the way I have this specific carbine set up. I have my irons set up. Now, the height, I'm getting into the actual setup now. This MRO mount, based on its height, supports co-witnessing your irons, okay? I don't know if you can see this. You may be able to, you may not, but it's there. But the fact of the matter is, I don't like co-witness irons. I don't use co-witness irons because when it's time to use my iron sights, I'll simply, and that would be in the event the MRO was down or damaged, I'll just QD the MRO off the carbine and work with my sights, my irons, as they were originally intended to work. And let me say this about co-witness. Co-witness works one place, okay, and that is on a range in good weather conditions or the best shooting conditions you can muster, okay? As soon as you hit low or no light or inclement weather, anything that obstructs your iron sights should be out of there, all right? If you're reduced to using your iron sights in the first place, then why make it any harder on yourself by trying to use your iron sights with anything in between them? All right, cool. You should have clear line of sight through the rear peep sight to the front post. All right, now, the way this carbine is set up, okay, the actual, and this is a ballpark figure, the actual line of sight, line of bore height or difference, since this sight is mounted in the vertical plane, it is above the bore. So you have line of sight, line of bore height happens to be 2.5 inches. With the SRO mounted with the appropriate step rail mount, and I don't know if you should be able to see this, it's a 2-part mount, and the sight itself is approximately about 3/8 of an inch above the rail itself, okay? But as luck would have it, you measure line of sight, center of the lens, line of sight, line of bore height is 2.5 inches, okay? Also, another measurement you may, you don't need to be overly concerned about it, but another measurement you want to observe is with the stock extended and firing the rifle in the traditional manner with a stock in the pocket of your shoulder, then you want to check your eye relief to your sight. Now, if I were to go short stock, meaning getting the stock up over my shoulder turning the rifle on its left side to use the 90-degree mount, I have a little more eye relief, but that's a natural occurrence because I simply can't mount the SRO any further to the rear on the rail. Okay, for, you know, on the forearm, on the 90-degree rail of the forearm. Now, but I have more than adequate eye relief under both circumstances using either side. Now, I'm going to reinforce one point. By taking this mounting concept one level further and going to the right rail, what that does, when I have to, or if I cannot use the vertical sight and have to go to the 90 rail sight, then, and that could be for whatever reason. Could it be an actual short stock type circumstance? But one thing I want you to consider, normally when you short stock a carbine, it's the same thing as short stocking a shotgun. Either a target presents itself in a manner in which, and at a distance in which you don't have time to mount the rifle properly, you simply short stock it and point shoot them right off you if you have to. But negotiating difficult shooting positions, and whether you short stock the rifle or you may have the rifle on its side, but you have the flat of the stock against, could be center chest, could be out here on your deltoid, or bring the stock over your shoulder and work it in that manner. All right, that's all I got. It's pretty simple if you have the necessary shooting knowledge and experience to understand trajectory, the sights being regulated for windage and elevation in the vertical plane, and if you're trying to use a vertically zeroed sight off axis, then your point aim, point impact is going to be skewed. Now, you can do the homework, you can train, commit, and fire X number of rounds until you're proficient at either consciously factoring in your holdovers, hold unders, or hold left, hold right as it applies to your immediate circumstances, or you can capture the value of the 90-degree mount, which still gives you maximum flexibility of your physical position and how you physically mount. You short stock it, you can use the traditional firing method. The 90-degree mount makes your carbine that much more flexible as a fighting tool. Now, I'll say this briefly. As I know and understand it right now, USPSA does not have a ruling on the number of sights you can have on a pistol caliber carbine or their configuration. So in some respects, I'm certain that this sight concept and mounting configuration would have certain advantages in the competitive realm as well. Now, to date, if anybody has done this before, I'm completely unaware of it. The way this came about was, I happened to be trying to kill some targets, was having some difficulty with it, and it dawned on me that had I a sight mounted on the 90-degree rail, I wouldn't be forced to do the math I was doing. And I want you to look at it from a combat perspective. You measure time in combat with the rest of your life. If you experience a problem, you've got the rest of your life to figure it out. So from a combat perspective, and in respect to combat speed of solving combat shooting problems at speed in the least amount of time it takes to put rounds on target, I see that as a tactical advantage. This so happens to be a tactical advantage because the basic shooting math is sound and the mechanics are technically correct. Okay, so you know, if you can cut, I don't care what it is, I don't care if it's a quarter second, if you can hit someone a quarter second faster, drive on, man. Depending on, you know, the circumstances of the actual engagement, your physical location as it relates to the threat area, your physical position as it relates to the cover or concealment that you're using in order to engage that threat, you know, do the math. This is just a way to eliminate doing that math and provide you an opportunity to get on target in difficult shooting circumstances much faster. And that's about as short as I can make this. So if you're still watching the video, that's cool. I appreciate your attentiveness and your willingness to watch the whole thing to capture the concept. This concept is not something that you can just go to the store and buy. Okay, now granted, you're going to have to pony up on the monies in respect to mounting the additional sight. The value of the concept is the 90-degree mount, okay, for all the stated reasons. That's all I got. All right, if I double tapped any information, it's probably because it was valuable enough to do so. This is S. Dave out.